Steelers Nation, listen up, because what happened in Chicago felt like watching the same movie on repeat, only with a different lead actor. Pittsburgh went into Soldier Field and walked out with another frustrating reminder that this team keeps spinning in the same spot. You look at that scoreboard showing the Bears taking it by 31-28, and it honestly tells the whole story. The things that have dragged this team down all year showed up again, and even the things that normally help them weren't enough to push anything forward. It is like this group keeps waiting for some kind of spark, some sign that they are building towards something, but every time it looks like one piece is turning the corner, another piece completely falls apart. One week you watch the offense finally find rhythm. The next week the defense tightens up and looks like it can carry a game on its own. Then suddenly both sides fall back into the same habits that have haunted them since the start of the season. That was the vibe again in Chicago. Everyone is going to point straight at the quarterback situation because, well, that is what always happens. But honestly, Mason Rudolph walked into the same storm that has beaten up every quarterback who has taken snaps for this team lately. It did not matter who was back there. So many issues were happening around him that even a flawless performance would have struggled to change the ending. Rudolph's numbers were solid on paper. 24 completions out of 31 attempts is nothing to scoff at, but the 171 yards show how limited the passing attack really was. One touchdown and one interception, and that pick came early on a second snap that he tried to float deep to DK Metcalf. That ball hung up. Metcalf did not exactly battle for it, and the defender absolutely did. Clean interception, and honestly an early sign of how the day was going to unfold. The ground game, on the other hand, was rolling with 186 yards, chewing up chunks of the field like it was nothing. But even with the run game working, the offense kept getting into these second and short or third and short situations and then calling plays that made no sense. Plays that had already hurt them earlier in the year. Plays that felt like they were trying to get cute instead of just moving the chains. And when you look back at the scoring drives they actually put together, they were long, gritty, old-school drives. 13 plays for 95 yards for the first touchdown, eating nearly 8 minutes. Another long march late in the game when they absolutely needed it. 17 plays for 72 yards. Drives built on patience, rhythm, and smart decisions. Drives that feel completely different from the scattered, disconnected possessions that filled the rest of the afternoon. It makes you wonder why sticking to what works is such a difficult concept right now. The passing game was spread out, but not in a way that ever felt threatening. Leading wide receiver, Calvin Austin with just 36 yards. Metcalf only 22. Ben Skowronek had a single grab for 21. The tight ends were barely featured despite having the kind of talent that should be a steady foundation for any offense. When your tight ends are catching 3 passes each and barely cracking 20 yards, something is off with the approach. This team has the tools to lean on short, simple throws when the deep shots aren't connecting, but instead kept pushing the ball downfield as if that was the only identity they understood. And here's the thing. Arthur Smith is a smart football mind. He has shown plenty this season that deserves respect, and there have been real stretches where you can see what he wants this offense to become. But this game was not one of his best, and the defensive side wasn't much better. Chicago did what just about every opponent has done to Pittsburgh this season. They attacked the middle of the field over and over again, finding gaps so wide open that it looked like the Steelers were playing shorthanded. When you watch the replay, seeing 4 Chicago receivers lined up across the front with no tricks, no disguises, and Pittsburgh responding with only 3 defenders in position, it is no surprise what happened next. Plays that should have been predictable continued to hurt them. Then came the penalties. Pre-snap mistakes that sucked the life out of their own momentum. One wiped away a Rudolph scramble of more than 20 yards. He had taken the offense to midfield, needing only another 10 yards to set up a field goal attempt for Chris Boswell. But someone lined up wrong, the flag came out, and everything vanished. Those errors have been showing up all year, and they showed up again when it mattered most. Special teams didn't help much either. Corliss Whiteman struggled with some unusually short punts at times when the defense desperately needed help with field position. And the coaching decisions down the stretch left everyone shaking their heads. Steelers had the ball near midfield, 39 seconds left, 3rd and long. Instead of playing for the kick, instead of recognizing that Boswell had been drilling attempt from 55 yards with room to spare, they acted like there was endless time. They never even brought him out to try. For a team that has leaned on Boswell so many times in high-pressure moments, it was baffling to watch them pass up the chance. After the game, the tone from the locker room was heavy. Not outrage, not finger-pointing, but that drained, frustrated feeling of a group that knows it keeps falling short in the same exact ways. And even the guys who usually bring the most energy sounded worn down. Linebacker Nick Herbig, who even scored in this one, still carried that sense of urgency and frustration at the same time, talking about the need for all three phases to finally show up together and admitting that the team has not put a complete game on the field yet. What makes this whole situation even more complicated is that nothing about the team's identity feels stable right now. You watch a game like this, and it becomes clearer than ever that Pittsburgh is caught somewhere between wanting to stretch the field and wanting to grind out wins with a physical, clock-controlling style. The problem is that they drift back and forth without fully committing to either one. That inconsistency shows up everywhere. One possession feels like a deliberate march down the field, built around the run game and high-percentage throws. The next possession feels like someone hit a fast-forward button and decided to place the season on the shoulders of a single deep ball. It is that constant tug-of-war between patience and impulse that keeps putting the offense in impossible situations. And on a day where the ground game was doing the heavy lifting, you would expect the offense to lean even harder into what was working. Those long drives weren't accidents. They were the result of using the running backs decisively, mixing in simple completions, and refusing to rush into unnecessary risks. But the moment those drives ended, the play calling veered off course again, as if someone forgot the formula entirely. You could almost feel the rhythm fall apart each time the offense abandoned what had been moving them down the field. It is not just the strategy, though. It is the feeling on the sideline. You can sense that the players want something to click, something that makes them believe they are turning a corner. But every time momentum starts building, it gets wiped out by a penalty, a miscommunication, a busted coverage, a play that tries to do too much. Those breakdowns don't just derail drives. They drain confidence. They make players hesitant. They make coaches second-guess. And you could see that hesitation creeping in as the Bears kept finding space over the middle, the same exact space teams have targeted week after week. Watching the defense struggle with the same issues again made everything even more frustrating. Chicago didn't rely on tricks or complicated schemes. They simply sent receivers into soft, open areas, knowing exactly where the breakdowns would appear. When a defense repeatedly loses the middle of the field, it becomes almost impossible to get off the field quickly. Drives extend, the momentum shifts, energy fades, and once again, that pattern showed up at the worst possible times. The missed assignments, the late rotations, the hesitation in communication, all of it fed into the same cycle the team has been stuck in. You cannot fully blame the pass rush when the ball is coming out to uncovered receivers before pressure even has time to develop. You cannot fully blame the secondary when the spacing behind the linebackers becomes a highway for opposing quarterbacks. Each part of the defense is carrying its own share of the burden, but none of it matters until the unit brings some kind of unified structure to the field. And that is where the frustration really builds, not from a lack of effort, but from the lack of cohesion. You look at the talent on this roster, and you know it should not look this chaotic. You look at the moments where everything does line up, like those stretches where the offense looks unstoppable on the ground, where the defense suddenly forces a massive stop, and you get a glimpse of what this team could be. But glimpses do not win games. Consistency does. And that is what Pittsburgh keeps failing to produce. The decision-making in critical moments tightened that not even further. Playing for the field goal late in the game should have been the simplest call available. When you have a kicker who has proven he can hit from well beyond 50 yards, and when the offense is stuck right around midfield with the clock melting away, it becomes a matter of trusting your strengths. But instead, the Steelers played as if they believed one more offensive miracle was going to appear. They pushed the series deeper, moved the ball nowhere, and never even gave their kicker a chance to equalize. A missed opportunity of that magnitude stings because it wasn't forced by the opponent. It was a choice. And when you combine strategic confusion with execution errors, the emotional toll becomes obvious. You could hear it in the locker room afterwards. Players weren't angry. They were drained. They were disappointed in a way that sounded heavier than most losses. They had been in tight games all season, constantly on the edge of creating separation in the standings. Now they find themselves watching other teams pass them, watching their playoff odds shrink, watching a year that once seemed promising turn into a grind for survival. Nick Herbig's words captured that feeling better than anyone. He didn't point fingers. He didn't speak in cliches. He spoke like someone who knows the solution isn't in one player or one position or one splash play. He talked about all three phases needing to show up together, something that hasn't happened in a full 60-minute performance all year. And if a young player who just scored a defensive touchdown is still feeling that weight, you can imagine how the rest of the room is processing it. The sense around the team right now isn't that they lack talent. It is that they haven't figured out how to fuse that talent into a consistent approach. Some teams struggle because they're simply outmatched. The Steelers struggle because they cannot find sustained identity. They can look physical and dominant on the ground. They can flash playmaking ability in the air. They can create turnovers. They can control time of possession. But they cannot do multiple things well in the same game without something else collapsing. And when it keeps happening against teams that aren't exactly powerhouse contenders, the urgency increases. Falling out of first place isn't even the biggest issue. Dropping to 8th in the conference, where only 7 spots exist for the postseason, adds real pressure. Every small breakdown suddenly carries enormous weight. Every misread, every penalty, every deep shot that didn't need to be thrown, every defensive lapse over the middle. The team is running out of room to chase results in the final stretch of the season. The most surprising revelation of this game might have been the answer to a question that had quietly hung over the offense for weeks. Was the obsession with deep shots a quarterback preference or a coordinator philosophy? Now we know. Mason Rudolph was given the same marching orders that Aaron Rodgers was. It was not a matter of a veteran improvising. It was a structural decision, a built-in part of the weekly plan. And that makes the constant return to low-percentage deep balls even harder to justify. Because the truth is that Rudolph looked so much more comfortable when he was allowed to work in short and intermediate ranges. He hit those throws with confidence. He moved the chains. He kept the offense on schedule. And when Pittsburgh stuck to those fundamentals during their longest drives, they looked capable of controlling a game. But the moment the offense shifted back toward forcing shots that didn't match the flow of the game, everything stalled again. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Rumors are swirling around Pittsburgh as the Steelers find themselves in the eye of a storm. Sources close to the team hint at a dramatic decision from head coach Mike Tomlin, who is reportedly slamming the table after the latest game. Insiders describe a tense atmosphere in the locker room, with whispers suggesting that Tomlin is considering moves that could shake the organization to its core. The usually composed coach seemed visibly frustrated, according to those present, and the team's recent performance appears to have reached a tipping point. Speculation is mounting about what exactly Tomlin might do next. Some insiders suggest roster shakeups are on the horizon, potentially affecting even key players who have been with the franchise for years. Others hint at strategic overhauls that could redefine the Steelers' approach on both offense and defense. Fans have taken to social media, debating whether the coach's rumored drastic action could signal the start of a mid-season crisis or a bold attempt to reverse the team's fortunes. The Pittsburgh locker room, traditionally known for its disciplined culture, is reportedly tense, with veteran players trying to keep younger members focused amid growing uncertainty. Analysts are already weighing the implications. A move like this could either galvanize the team, creating a renewed sense of urgency, or deepen the internal struggle that seems to have been simmering beneath the surface for weeks. Tomlin has long been respected for his steady leadership, but these latest reports suggest even he has his limits. Whether this table-slamming moment leads to immediate changes or is a warning shot, one thing is clear. Pittsburgh is buzzing with speculation, and the Steelers' next moves will be closely scrutinized. The question on everyone's mind is whether Tomlin's rumored decision will be remembered as a turning point or a sign of mounting turmoil in a franchise still chasing its next big triumph. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.